You know that feeling. You just finished a conversation with someone. Maybe it was a date. Maybe it was a new friend. Maybe it was someone you met at a party or a work event. And while you were talking to them, it felt amazing, like electric, like this person totally got you, like everything just clicked, and then they left. And within 10 minutes, maybe even 5, something shifted. You couldn't explain it. You weren't sad exactly, but you weren't good either. Something just dropped, like your energy went from a 10 straight down to 4, and you didn't know why. You probably brushed it off, told yourself you were just tired, or maybe you overthought it and felt guilty, like something was wrong with you for not feeling great after such a good conversation. But here's what nobody tells you. That crash, that sudden, empty feeling after what seemed like an incredible interaction, that is not random. That is not tiredness. That is your body sending you one of the clearest signals it knows how to send. And in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to break down exactly what that signal means and 6 other behaviors that quietly expose a manipulator before your conscious mind even catches up. Because the truth is, most people are looking in the wrong place. They're watching what people say. They're judging confidence, charm, looks, words. But manipulators are very good with words. That's literally their skill set. What they can't fully control is everything else. Let's get into it. So let's go back to that crash feeling and actually explain what's happening inside your body when it hits. When you have a real, genuine conversation with someone who actually cares, someone who's present, someone who's not running an agenda, your brain releases a combination of serotonin and oxytocin. These are your connection chemicals. They're slow, they're warm, they're stable. And the key thing about them is they last. You feel good during the conversation, and you keep feeling good after it ends, sometimes for hours. That's what real human connection feels like chemically. Now, here's where it gets interesting. A skilled manipulator. And understand, most of them didn't learn this from a book. They learned it from survival, from childhood, from years of figuring out how to get what they need from people. A skilled manipulator knows, instinctively, how to trigger dopamine. Dopamine is your excitement chemical. It's the same thing that fires when you get a like on Instagram or win a small bet. It's a spike. It's intense. It feels incredible in the moment, but dopamine crashes. That's just how it works biologically. The spike always comes down. And when it does, that's the feeling you couldn't explain. That emptiness, that low, that, wait, why do I feel weird right now? You weren't connecting with that person. You were being stimulated by them. And there is a massive difference between those two things. So the very first behavior to watch for isn't even something you see in them. It's something you feel in yourself. How do you feel 20 minutes after the conversation ends? Genuinely good, warm, calm scene? That's oxytocin. That's real. Flat, empty, slightly confused about why you feel flat? That's a dopamine crash. And that person likely triggered it on purpose. Even if they couldn't explain how they did it, your body scored that interaction before your brain finished processing it. Start listening to that score. Let me introduce you to a pattern that once you see it, you will see it everywhere. Pay close attention to people who loudly announce their own virtues. Not people who are kind. People who tell you they are kind. Repeatedly. Unprompted. I'm honestly just too nice. Like, that's always been my problem. I care too much. People take advantage of me because I have such a big heart. Sound familiar? Here's the uncomfortable truth. People who are genuinely kind don't spend much time announcing it. They're too busy actually being kind. It's just how they operate. They don't need to label it because it's not a performance. It's just them. But when someone insists on a virtue, when they keep bringing it back, keep reinforcing it, keep making sure you know this about them, what they're actually doing is managing your perception. They're building a costume. And the reason they need the costume is because underneath it, the reality is the opposite. The loudest, I'm such a kind person, in the room is very often the most quietly cruel. This works the same way with honesty. I'm just a very straightforward person. I always tell the truth. I have no filter. What you see is what you get. People who say this most aggressively are often the ones with the most layers hidden underneath. And here's the psychological reason why this happens. When someone has a quality they wish they had but don't, they compensate by claiming it, loudly, repeatedly. It's almost like they're trying to convince themselves as much as they're trying to convince you. Psychologists call this a reaction formation. The external declaration is a shield against the internal reality they can't face. So next time someone leads with their virtue, don't just take it at face value. Watch what they do over time. Because the costume always eventually slips. This is one of the most powerful things you can learn about reading people. And it works in real time, in any conversation. Here's a scenario. You're talking to someone, and you share something personal. Maybe it's a small insecurity. Maybe it's something you're struggling with. Maybe it's just a moment of honesty. Yeah, I've actually been really stressed lately, or honestly, I've never been great at that. A normal person, even a complete stranger, will respond facially before they respond verbally. You'll see their forehead lift slightly. You might see the corners of their mouth pull down just a little in that concerned way. There's a specific muscle just above the inner eyebrow, sometimes called a grief muscle, that creates a small horseshoe shape when someone is genuinely feeling something for you. It's nearly impossible to fake consistently because most people don't even know it exists. This is called facial resonance, and about 85% of people do it automatically. It's empathy showing up on the face before the brain even decides to respond. Now watch what a manipulator does in that same moment. The face goes quiet, still, almost neutral. There's no resonance, no automatic mirroring, no grief muscle, no forehead movement. But here's what does change. Their focus sharpens. Their blink rate drops. Their eyes lock in. They lean slightly forward. Because to them, what just happened is an emotional moment. It's an informational moment. You just handed them data. You showed them a crack in the wall, and their brain immediately filed it under useful. Your vulnerability is not something they feel with you. It's something they file about you. So watch the face. In the moment you say something real, something a little raw or honest, what does their face do? Does it move with you, or does it just watch? That split second tells you more than an entire hour of conversation can. Everyone talks about narcissists. Everyone talks about psychopaths and sociopaths. And yes, those are real and worth understanding. But there's another type that is far more common, far harder to spot, and honestly, far more disruptive to your daily life. A high-conflict person. And what makes them so dangerous is this. They are almost never the one actually starting the fire. They're the one who quietly hands someone else the match. Here's how it looks in real life. There's tension in a friend group, and somehow this one person always seems to be nearby when things explode, but never quite at the center. They'll pull one friend aside and say, I probably shouldn't say this, but did you hear what she said about you? They'll tell a sibling, you should really talk to dad about this. They'll plant the seed, step back, and then watch everything burn from a safe distance. They love drama, but they're smart enough to let other people perform it for them. So, how do you spot them in conversation before the damage is done? Simple. Ask optimistic questions. Working on anything exciting lately? What's been the best part of your week? Any goals you're fired up about right now? Watch what happens. A high-conflict person becomes visibly uncomfortable with these questions. They can't engage with them naturally. They'll deflect, change the subject, pivot immediately to a complaint or a problem, because their brain is genuinely wired toward negativity. It's always scanning for who wronged them, who's out to get them, what went wrong, and why it wasn't their fault. They'll show up to every lunch with the same problem. You'll offer solutions. They'll shoot every single one down. I tried that. That won't work for me. You don't understand. They don't actually want solutions. They want an audience for their suffering. And that pattern, right there, is one of the clearest behavioral red flags you'll ever see in conversation. Researchers at Cornell University ran a large study specifically looking at what behaviors make people feel distrust towards someone, even when they can't consciously explain why. They asked people, when do you most mistrust someone? And then they cataloged every physical cue that kept coming up, where patterns emerged consistently. Number 1, touching the face, specifically self-touching. A hand go to cheek the nose, the mouth, the chin. We associate this movement with anxiety and deception. It's a self-soothing behavior. When someone's body is under stress, like when they're saying something that isn't entirely true, the hands often move toward the face without the person realizing it. Number 2, leaning away, called a distancing behavior. If something makes us uncomfortable, a question, a topic, an accusation, our body instinctively tries to create space from it. A lean back, a slight tilt of the head away, a subtle scoop of the shoulders backward. The body is trying to get away from something even when the mouth is saying, no, I'm totally fine with this. Number 3, crossed arms. Yes, it can mean you're cold. Yes, it can be a comfort thing. But in the context of a conversation, particularly when a topic changes and the arms suddenly cross, it signals psychological closing, a wall going up, a retreat, and consistently, studies show that people perceive crossed arm body language as more closed-minded and less trustworthy, even when the words being spoken are perfectly reasonable. Number 4, the off-camera self. This one is less about a single gesture and more about an overall pattern. And it might be the most important one on this list. Are you, or is the person you're evaluating, the same person when nobody is watching, when it's just them at home, when they think no one's paying attention, when there's no audience, no performance, no impression to manage? Because if someone is genuinely different off camera, if the private version and the public version are two separate people, that internal conflict leaks out. It shows up as subtle inconsistencies in behavior, micro expressions that don't match the words, a gut feeling in the people around them that something doesn't quite add up. Your lower brain is an expert behavior profiler. It's been doing this your entire life. It just doesn't speak in words. It speaks in feelings. That quiet sense of something's off that you can't justify logically, that's your profiling system working correctly. Don't override it just because you can't explain it yet. So now you have the signals. You have the crash feeling, the face that doesn't move, the kindness costume, the high conflict patterns, the body language cues. But I want to leave you with something practical. Something you can use in the next conversation you have with someone you're not sure about. It's called informational altruism. And it's simple. You share something first, not something huge, just something real, a small admission, a minor vulnerability. Honestly, I'm not great at this. Or, I went through a rough patch last year that kind of changed how I see things. Something genuine, something that costs you just a little to say. And then you watch. Does this person meet you there? Do they share something back? Something equally real? Does their face soften? Do they lean in with warmth? Or does the dynamic shift in a way that's hard to describe? Like they just quietly file what you said and move the conversation forward without really acknowledging it? Genuine people respond to openness with openness. It's almost a reflex. People wearing a costume get uncomfortable when you take yours off, because suddenly the gap between your authenticity and their performance becomes visible, and they either have to drop the act or go harder on it. If they go harder on the costume, you have your answer. And here's the final thought I'll leave you with. The goal isn't to walk through life suspicious of everyone. The goal is to trust the right people. And your ability to tell the difference gets sharper every time you stop ignoring what your body is already telling you. You've always known. You just talk yourself out of it. Stop doing that. If this gave you a new way to see the people around you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more content that helps you understand human behavior at a deeper level, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.